What makes a perfect scene? What causes a sequence of action, character, and dialogue to linger in our minds long after we close the book or the screen goes dark? The best scenes in fiction are crafted around the understanding that a scene is a story unto itself. For a perfect example, one needs look no further than the docking scene from Christopher Nolan's space epic, Interstellar. This sequence so thoroughly meets the criteria of a great scene that you could almost watch it in isolation as a short film, a self-contained story within a larger epic. But why? What are the boxes this scene checks that make it so effective? To answer that, we need to break down the core elements of a great scene. Opening scene value, objective, obstacle, structure, pacing, character, and closing scene value. Spoiler warning for Interstellar, especially the docking sequence. In his best-selling book, Story, author Robert McKee defines a scene in this incredibly simple way that anyone could understand. A scene is an action through conflict in more or less continuous time and space that turns the value-charged condition of a character's life on at least one value with a degree of perceptible significance. Ideally, every scene is a story event.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Okay, let's break this down into something more understandable. A character enters a scene in one of two conditions, positive or negative. Things are going either good or bad for them. The purpose of a scene is to change that value. Positive to negative, negative to positive, positive to double positive, or negative to doubly negative. In Interstellar, we come into the docking scene with a clear understanding of our character's position, negative. Our main character Cooper and his partner Brand need to dock their shuttle on their space station the Endeavour, but antagonist Dr. Mann has reached the station ahead of them, and if he successfully docks, will take control of the Endeavour. This clear establishment of our character's condition gives us a starting point from which to launch our scene. Our characters are clearly in the negative, so by the end of the scene, things will need to have moved from either bad to good or bad to horrible. Every story must have an objective, a goal the protagonist pursues throughout the narrative. Since a scene is a story in miniature, there must also be a definitive scene objective. What does our character want from the scene? What happens if they get it? What happens if they don't get it? Think of the objective like the anchor of the scene. If the objective is weak or unclear, the scene will drift aimlessly. Great scenes possess clear, tangible objectives, and the docking sequence is no exception. From the opening frames of the scene, Cooper's objective is clear: dock the ship. If he does, he and Brand can continue their mission to save humanity. If they can't, they will eventually run out of oxygen and die in space, dooming humanity in the process. So we have our first condition met. Establish a strong, tangible objective, check. But there's another critical element of great scenes, a counterbalance, the other side of the coin. Without this element, Interstellar's docking sequence would have long since faded into obscurity. So what is this all-important element? It's not enough for characters to have clear scene objectives. What's standing in their way? As critical as the objective is, it's the obstacle that makes a great scene, and Interstellar is no exception. As the scene progresses, it appears the obstacle will be Dr. Mann docking ahead of Cooper and taking control of the ship, but in reality, the true scene obstacle is something much more formidable. After attempting to dock improperly, Dr. Mann's shuttle explodes, sending the ship spinning out of control into space. From a writing perspective, everything about this obstacle is perfect. The more formidable the scene obstacle, the more engaged the audience will be, and it's hard to imagine a more formidable obstacle than trying to dock a shuttle on a space station careening out of control through space. Not only does the sheer impossibility of the situation engage our interest, there's also the all-important element of isolation. When crafting a scene obstacle, there should be an overriding sense of isolation, that our characters are alone in this and no one is coming to rescue them. This will put a pinpoint focus on the scene and character as we wait with bated breath to see how they will pull themselves out of this one. And it's impossible to be more isolated than stranded in the middle of space. Once the scene obstacle is set in motion, it's clear no one is coming to save our characters. They'll have to do it on their own. Think of a scene like a 3-act play. In Act 1, we're presented with the scene objective and obstacle. In Act 2, we see our characters form and execute a plan to overcome the obstacle and achieve the objective. And in Act 3, we witness the fallout of the plan, resulting in either success or failure. The effectiveness of a scene hinges on the structuring of these 3 acts. This is where the docking sequence really knocks things out of the park. Not only are the elements of each act effective, but the transitions between acts are clear and meaningful. In Act 1 of the docking sequence, Cooper has the objective of docking his ship and encounters the obstacle of the Endeavour spinning through space. As he begins his approach, Brand asks him what he's doing, to which he responds, docking.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Docking.
This moment, punctuated by the beginning of Hans Zimmer's incredible score, is the clear transition point from Act 1 to Act 2. As an audience, we sense the shift. The stage is set, and now we're ready to watch the plan come together. In Act 2, we watch the plan formulate and unfold. We're reminded of the insurmountable nature of the obstacle as Cooper's onboard navigation system, TARS, tells him
It's not possible.
Instead of being told Cooper's plan, we become aware of it as it unfolds, getting our first clue when Cooper tells TARS to get ready to match the spin of the Endeavour.
Okay, get ready to match our spin with the retro thrusters.
Although we're told this, we don't get a clear idea of what this really means until the plan goes into effect. Cooper intends to mimic the spinning motion of the Endeavour so that the two ships are motionless relative to each other. Once the plan has been formed and executed, we're ready to transition to our third act, success or failure. But let's hold off on that for just a moment, because there's a vital aspect of this scene that we still haven't discussed. What makes a song great? Lyrics, instruments? For sure. But there's another all-important element: rhythm. Rhythm dictates the mood and feel of a song, prompting listeners to tap their feet or be lulled into a trance as the rhythm undulates up and down. If the rhythm of a song is off, if it rushes or drags improperly, the audience quickly disengages. Stories have a rhythm as well, a beat or flow that carries the audience up and down, back and forth through the narrative. That rhythm is called pacing. The best scenes don't just have great story elements, they have great pacing, and the docking sequence is no exception. Act 1 begins as a slow burn, a gradual but steady rise in tension until our transition point to Act 2.
Docking.
Once we transition, there's a noticeable uptick in tension, and consequently in pacing. Suddenly everything is moving faster, the ship moves faster, characters move and talk faster, even the music gets faster. The scene rises in tempo, just like a song gradually swelling as it nears the chorus. Everything moves fast enough to keep the audience on the edge of their seat, but not so fast that we're lost. It's this great sense of pacing that gives this scene that heart-pounding feel, that sense that we're right in the ship with Cooper and Brand, holding our breath as we wait to either successfully dock or blow into a million pieces like Dr. Mann. So this is all great, but there's a key scene element we're still missing, isn't there? After all, a scene is a character overcoming obstacles in pursuit of a goal. We have the obstacle, we have the goal, we just need our character. If you want to know if you have a truly proactive character, you need only ask this question: does the story happen to them, or did they happen to the story? Is our character stuck in reaction mode, continually pushed around by story elements they can't control, or do they take charge, executing decisive action that forever alters the course of the story? For all the powerful elements of the docking sequence, it's the effectiveness of the main character that may just be its strongest attribute. From the transition moment onward, we see Cooper take the situation and the entire scene firmly in his hands. Note how efficiently his dialogue is written to reveal his proactivity, beginning with his single-word statement of his goal.
Docking.
This laser focus on the objective, despite the seemingly insurmountable obstacle, is heightened by his response to being told it's impossible.
No, it's necessary.
Cooper's plan in overcoming the scene obstacle is everything audiences are looking for in a protagonist. It's courageous, it's intelligent, and best yet, it's resourceful. Remember earlier when we discussed the importance of isolation when facing a scene obstacle? As audience members, we want characters who are resourceful, who think quick on their feet and use the skills and materials at their disposal to create inventive solutions. When we see protagonists helped out of a jam by luck or outside forces, we feel cheated and lose faith in the protagonist. The moment we see Cooper's plan go into effect, there's an incredible rush of gratification. We feel justified in our faith in the protagonist's ability. As Cooper's pod slowly begins to line up with the hatch of the Endeavour, we realize Cooper's plan wasn't lucky or foolhardy, it was incredibly resourceful. We realize without question that Cooper is the right character for the job, further reinforced when his less experienced partner passes out from the extreme G-force. Rather than being reactionary, Cooper takes decisive actions that move us through the plan and execution phase of Act 2 and finally transition us into the scene's third act. The moment Cooper successfully docks onto and stabilizes the Endeavour, we know we are now within the final act of the scene. All that remains is to process our closing scene value. Have we sufficiently changed from the negative opening value? Thanks to the success of Cooper's plan, we leave the scene with a positive value. Our scene has officially accomplished its goal of changing values, effectively advancing our story and characters in the process. Great scenes like the docking sequence aren't magical or something that happened by chance. They come about through a solid understanding of structure, pacing, and character, all working together to tell a small, engaging story within a larger one. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you believe is the greatest scene of all time, and be sure to subscribe for more writing content.